Hello, my name is Aubrey Stevens, and today I'm going to discuss with you juvenile delinquency and rational choice theory. Rational choice theory is where juveniles make the active choice to commit a crime because for them the benefits outweigh the costs. Thus, according to choice theory, some juveniles commit crime based off of free will. This theory suggests that for some juvenile delinquents, crime is not motivated by a need to commit crime, but rather a choice. Thus, juveniles choose to commit crime based off their own personal weighing of costs and benefits. Why is choice theory controversial? Our text explains that many factors lead to delinquency: biosocial factors, abuse, poor home life, gang activity, etc. However, choice theory is the only topic that focuses on a personal decision of the delinquents themselves, instead of focusing on outside factors. However, choice theory suggests that delinquents are not a product of a bad home life, but rather the product of well-thought-out personal decisions. Delinquency as a rational choice. Delinquency is considered a rational choice by many criminologists because they argue that a juvenile chooses to commit crime after a careful consideration of pros and cons for committing such a crime. Thus, their choices are rooted in hedonism or a pursuit of pleasure. For many delinquents, the gain of committing the crime far outweighs the possibility of punishment. They are not committing crimes without rationalizing them. They are premeditating their choices and weighing the cost and benefit of their choices. Statistics on choice theory. Often when discussing choice theory, criminologists argue that the best way to handle choice theory and delinquency is through swift and severe punishment. However, in a study comparing the perceived certainty of crime and a self-reporting survey of delinquents, it was found that there was an inverse relationship between the two. These findings suggest that even if a juvenile has a perceived swift and severe punishment for a crime, that they are still choosing to do them. This could mean that for the juvenile, the pleasure for committing the crime far outweighs the fear of punishment. This is troubling because it means that deterrence has little effect on choice theory and delinquency. Other aspects leading to choice theory. For some juveniles, despite punishment, they choose to commit crime to gain street credentials and gain respect amongst their peers. Thus, some will choose to commit crime and even allow themselves to get caught to gain respect. Furthermore, juveniles are also choosing to commit crime because the ethics in their community are broken down. As in, everyone else in their community, including their family and their peers, are choosing to commit crime, and thus it seems like a rational choice for them to do so as well. Statistics over choice theory. Table 1 depicts a 20-year-long cross-sectional study comparing choice theory and delinquency, as well as perceived punishment. In the study, it was found that regardless of perceived threat of punishment, many juveniles still chose to partake in crime. Most notably, juveniles still actively chose to take part in substance abuse, even with the possibility of the perceived threat of punishment for their crimes. This suggests that even though criminologists argue that swift and severe punishment will deter juveniles from choosing to commit the crime, that is simply not always the case. Other criminologists argue that swift and severe punishment will not deter a juvenile from choosing crime, because the benefits of committing the crime are also coupled with gaining street credentials. Although I'm aware that a self-reporting survey may be skewed due to people stretching the truth or miscalculating their answers, I feel that 20 years shows a pretty general scope of the statistical nature of choice theory. Trends over time in choice theory. The chart here provided by Kang and Sladkey explains that over time, juveniles are choosing to take part in crime more and more as time goes on. Surprisingly, the rate of juvenile drug offenses has not increased drastically, which is surprising due to other research I reviewed involving increased gang activity amongst juveniles. However, as seen in the chart, it is clear that some crimes against persons and property crimes have increased a great deal, more so than in decades prior. Juveniles are choosing to commit crime, possibly to gain street credentials, as mentioned prior. While it is a positive that drug offenses amongst juveniles are going down, it is still unfortunate that public order, crimes against persons, and property crimes are on the rise. No matter the severity of the crime, juveniles are still choosing to commit crime at increasing rates. Typical offenses in choice theory. As discussed prior, reasons that could push children to choose crime are the deteriorating neighborhoods around them and a breakdown of ethics and culture. Thus, children in increasing numbers are choosing to turn to gang activity. However, this is a slippery slope, as being within a gang also takes it to where a child chooses a life of theft, substance abuse, stealing, and violent crimes. Mainly, challenges with choice theory and delinquency are that the main issue in reference to delinquency and choice theory is the type of life that a delinquent has. If a child grew up with a bad upbringing with backwards ethics, which is mirrored in the neighborhood that they live in, then they are more apt to choose crime. A delinquent is taught that crime is normal and needed, and thus chooses to commit crime. If everyone in a delinquent's life is committing crime, then it seems like common sense that they should do so as well. Furthermore, as mentioned prior, a juvenile may choose crime for social gain, especially to gain acceptance amongst his or her peers. How choice theory and delinquency impact society. As discussed prior, some of the main crimes committed by juveniles who acted in choice theory were harm to people and property. This impacts society and the surrounding area because at increasing levels there is violence and destruction happening to people and property alike. Thus, more juveniles would be at risk of thinking that crime is normal and would choose to do crimes themselves. Future youth would then be at risk of choosing crime. Choice theory and delinquency can lead to a cycle of societal breakdown leading to more juveniles choosing crime. Choice theory and delinquency in psychology, sociology, and criminal justice. The root of choice theory, according to criminal psychologists, is that juveniles are choosing to commit crime based off of hedonism. Put simply, children are choosing to commit crime because they feel the pleasure or benefit of committing the crime is too much to pass up. This is why that despite the criminal justice view of choice theory and delinquency, many kids will still choose crime. As in, connecting the psychological and criminal justice viewpoints, some kids prefer the benefits of crime, regardless of strict perceived punishment. Lastly, the sociological view of delinquency and choice theory explains that many kids choose to commit crime because everyone in their life does it, so it seems like a normal and necessary choice for them. The 4 types of explanations for juvenile delinquency and choice theory. On an individual basis, children choose to commit crime out of free will, as in they freely choose to commit the crime. However, there are instances where a child could be born with a defect that warps their sense of rationality, or they are exposed to a substance that does so. Psychologically, children choose to commit crime because they possess a criminal personality, meaning they were born with mental and physical attributes that would lead them to choosing crime. Social structure factors into children choosing crime because many children were raised in an area in which crime is normal and needed for everyday life. How delinquency in choice theory relates to family, school, and the courts. As mentioned prior, if a child grows up in a family where crime is a norm, then they are more apt to choose crime themselves. At school, children are around their peers often. Thus, if many children see crime as normal and choose to commit crime, it's likely that will influence their peers to choose crime too. Thus, school officials will have to try and unravel the culture of choosing crime as a rational choice. Research done by Kang and Sladkey found that 2.1 million juveniles enter the juvenile court system annually. This data shows that delinquency in the choice theory is an epidemic that is deeply rooted in many communities. This means that police-juvenile relations will be strained because they are too busy combating the culture where choosing crime is normal for many delinquents. The relationship between delinquency and gender. Our text explains that boys commit more crime on average than that of girls. This is the same in choice theory. However, according to data found by Paternoster, girls most often choose to commit petty theft crimes like shoplifting or stealing from a friend. However, the same data found that boys most often commit more violent crimes like personal injury and property crimes. Unfortunately, both genders are involved in gangs. However, boys are slightly more involved in gangs than that of girls in choice theory. However, this means that both genders are subject to drug dealing and illicit drug use. Conclusion. To combat the ever-growing crime rates of children choosing crime, we as a society must change the way that many children are growing up. By doing this, we can break down the cycle of children growing up thinking that crime is necessary and rational choice. This will then change the thinking of future parents who will teach their children proper ethics. Slowly, this paradigm shift will make it to where the surrounding areas and schools are effectively changing the culture as a whole. I feel that changing the culture of choosing crime as a rational choice is needed and thus more effective than punishment, especially considering that despite the threat of punishment, many children are still choosing to commit crime at increasing rates. Thank you for listening to my presentation on rational choice theory and juvenile delinquency.